Hi there. It's October the 11th, and we're continuing our journey through the prophecies of Jeremiah, in Hebrew Yirmiyahu, meaning the Lord will establish or the Lord will appoint. And here we come, we're reading from chapter 16 through to chapter 17 and chapter 18. And in chapter 16, there's a likening by Jeremiah of the pursuit of God of the people, of huntsmen and fishermen coming after their idolatry. The Lord says that idolatry is pointless, and actually those who follow those idols are going to be judged for their idolatry. There's no point in appealing to idols. In fact, then there's a cry by Jeremiah at the end to God, who is the fortress, the God who is the one who is his rock, the God who is his shelter. And there's a picture here of the nations that will come, and actually there will be a coming to Zion. There will be a coming of the nations to Zion, repenting of the foolishness of their idolatry. There will be a turnaround. In chapter 17, we see sin described, the sin of Zion described like the engraving of an iron tool on the hearts of the people. The Torah itself, the law itself, was engraved on tablets of stone, and there's also references to engraving on hearts in other places, hearts of flesh. But here, the sin of the people is seen like being engraved on their hearts. Because of this, the treasures of Zion will be lost, and there's a curse that is spoken over those who trust in human strength, who put their trust in those that are not God. But then there's a wonderful passage of praise, almost a psalm of blessing, that comes in the middle of chapter 17. There's a blessing on those who trust in the Lord, those who will be like trees planted beside a river, like the leaf that will not fade, and will draw their strength from the Lord. There's a reminder in the middle of that the heart of man is deceitful and twisted, and that the natural inclination is to follow evil. Especially since Zion, since Judah has forsaken the fountain of waters, the one where they could grow and they could flourish, but they've forsaken him. But there's a cry from Jeremiah, heal us, Lord, and we will be healed. There's in the midst of this, there's a knowledge that God is the one who is the source of water. And if only Israel will come back to him, if only they will follow him, there will be a complete change in their future and in their destiny. And then at the end of chapter 17, there's an appeal for the restoration of the Sabbath. People are carrying, Jeremiah is told to go to the gates where people are carrying in on the Sabbath their goods and their wares for selling. And he appeals to people to stop selling things on the Sabbath. He says, if you will stop selling on the Sabbath, if you'll stop doing your work on the Sabbath, then there will be peace and there will be restoration. But if you continue to break the Sabbath in the way that you are, then destruction will come. And then in chapter 18, there's a very well-known passage here on the potter's house. The Lord says to Jeremiah, go down to the house of the potter and watch him making a pot. And as he watches the potter making the pot, then the pot is it goes wrong in his hands. The pot doesn't go to plan. And and the Lord is saying to Israel through this picture, you are in my hands, and actually I have the right to change it. If you're going to go wrong, if you're walking away from me in this way, I hold the destiny, not just of Israel, but I hold the destiny of nations in my hand. And after all, you have forsaken me. You've walked away from the one. Again, speaks about the fountains. He speaks about the snows of the waters that come from the snow, the lovely cool waters that they have forsaken, and they've walked away from God. And because of these words that Jeremiah is bringing, we're also aware at the end of chapter 18 of a plot against him, the plots against him that he suffers, and he cries out to the Lord for vindication. They're saying, the people are saying, we will just reject the words of Jeremiah. After all, we have the law, we have the prophets, we don't need to listen to Jeremiah. And Jeremiah appeals to the Lord for vindication, because Jeremiah knows that the words he's speaking are from the Spirit of God. As we've read these words about the potter and about the clay in his hands, we're reminded that we're very much in God's hands, that we're very much the work of his hands. Rather than resist him, we can be giving our lives day by day into his hands and asking to be shaped more and more, in our case, into the image of his Son Jesus, because in that way we will be fulfilling the heart of God that he wants to bring to us instead of resisting him, remembering that our hearts can be turning against him as much as turning towards him. Let's constantly be checking the motives of our heart and yield to God as the clay in his hands. Have a very good October the 11th.